Yo, what's going on? The sun is shining bright. This is Terrell, Hall of Fame, D-Line, TBKC, and all that sweet, beautiful, wonderful shit. Um, I tell you what, and this is a good question, and I'm gonna try to answer it the best way. And I've answered this a lot, but it's the question of patience. Someone who's sort of new to our breed, actually hit me up and asked me the question of, should they be willing to wait for a puppy that they really like, that they really believe in, that they really, or should they just skip out and just buy, just find one that's already on the ground so they don't have to really risk losing their deposit or whatever the case may be. And I'm going to answer this as fairly as possible because I've dealt with it both ways. I've dealt with it as a buyer. I've dealt with it as a breeder, or whatever. A lot of it's going to depend on, what's your true motivation. If you're someone who just wants a cool ass pet, and never has any intentions on breeding the dog or whatever, I say, you can buy basically any healthy dog. It's just that simple. The dog is coming to you like you think it's cute or whatever, and then you can do your research to make sure that this is going to be a healthy dog and it comes from that kind of stock. Then go ahead and just buy you a cute, healthy puppy and, and call it that, I think it's almost sort of crazy sometimes when people say that they have, that they're like, man, I don't care about anything. I just want to, I just want to get me a dog off of this stud and yada yada yada, and but I don't plan on breeding him. It's like, well, why in the hell would you spend that type of money, go through all these type of things to buy a dog that's probably going to be a top tier dog, high quality dog, and not breed him? And then on top of it, you're going to be in a rush to get the dog. And a lot of breeders who are trying to make a top tier dog just are not in a rush. And if you're dealing with a real breeder, they might not even want to let you get a hold of those type of dogs in some cases. So I think you have to you have to sort of ask what your motivation is. And I'm not saying don't want a quality dog, but what I'm saying is, sort of pick a lane. It's just it's just like the person who buys a car with 750 horsepower knowing that they drive slow as hell. It's like, you're going to spend a whole bunch of extra money and all of this when you can get you a good quality pet without a lot of headaches, Now, on the flip side, as a breeder, I would say you have to have a plan, You have to have a plan. It's the same thing as you're buying a pet and you like, I just like that dog and that's how I want my pet to look. You should, if that's your thing, and you should plan on having some patience, follow the guidance of the breeder. If you entrust in that breeder's vision and you see that they put out a lot of quality dogs or whatever, trust in that vision and say, hey, I can get the job done one way or the other. But it might not happen tomorrow. It might not happen in 6 months. I've told y'all several dogs that I've literally waited, over a year. I think the furthest one was like almost 3 years, and we stayed in contact every other month or whatever the case may be. But it was a thing of me knowing what I wanted and being patient enough to get what I wanted, and I wasn't let down by what I needed to get. That's why if I tell somebody I want a puppy, I'm targeting that blood for a different reason. I just hit up one of my guys who's actually got 2 dogs from me, and I said, hey, next litter, hey man, put me down for a female, because that's 2 strands of blood that I actually produced that I think will click well together, and I don't have in my yard. But you have to have a patience. It might come next year. Now, I say all that to say this is that going into the breeders, if you are a breeder, the reason, and it shows that possibly you're not on the right track. And this is what I mean by that. If you're willing to constantly and consistently change the dogs that you're looking for, then what tends to happen here is that it's showing that you don't really have a true breeding plan. You just want something fast. I need something right now. I need something right now. I gotta have this. Just give me a puppy. Well, that's showing that your program doesn't have a lot of directions, because once you pick exactly what it is that you're trying to do, it's not a ton of variables. You might find a dog that's a lot like that, But, you know, just plugging in any dog and saying that, you know, oh, I'm gonna pick this, it almost reminds me of like the people who say, hey, you know, my bitch is in heat, is it any studs available? Like, really, that should never be a question. You should be somewhere, you know, with a list of studs that's going to be, you know, perfect for your dog or fit your program. You know, many people, you know, who claim that they know what they're doing, they'll go and do anything. And I'm going to use this analogy because it's the perfect one, you know, for what we're talking about. And what we are talking about, you know, is very, very important in breeding. As many of y'all know, you know, I mess around a little bit with mixed martial arts and things. And I went to a seminar, man, and it wasn't just a seminar. It was like a week-long thing where you got to train with some very, very talented jiu-jitsu coaches and masters and different things of that, you know, some bad boys. And, you know, I'm not a high ranking or anything, so I'm just there to learn. But it was a point in the class where it did seem redundant. You know, we really, really practiced some of the same moves over and over and over again. You know, some of the same thought processes, you know, over and over and over again. And there was a guy in there, and he was probably feeling himself because he was a brown belt, which means he's probably been in there at least 8 years or whatever. And, you know, and he asked one of the masters, you know, like, you know, is this all we're going to get out of the class type of deal, you know? And, you know, and the master was like, well, what do you mean, you know? And he was like, well, we already know a lot of this stuff and this and that and the other. And I came to learn something new, you know? And so the master told him, you know what I mean? Like, he said, you know, but how good are you at these things? And keep in mind, a brown belt is a beast, you know, especially to most of us, you know? And, you know, and he was like, you know, the guy was sort of arrogant, you know, I'm good enough at all of this stuff, you know, and this and that, and I'm trying to go to the next level. And so the master told him, he said, look, you know, everybody's not in here is not at the same levels on everything. But he said, but these thought processes that I'm giving you is to make you great at something. You know, he said, you're good at a lot of things, but what are you great at, you know? And so, guy, you know, he kept on rambling on and rambling on and rambling on. And he was like, well, I'll tell you what I'll do for you. I knew this was going to get some shit going. But he told him, he said, I'm going to tell you what move that I'm going to do to you. I'm going to tell you what process I'm going to do to get to that. And I'm going to tap you. And so, of course, with this guy, you know, being in this and having won tournaments and stuff, he was like, whatever, man. Ain't no way that you can tell me what you're going to do to me and do it. Well, needless to say, you know, the master, you know, who was very, very good at what he did, he went in there and he tapped him 3 times in a row, exactly like he told him, and the guy couldn't stop it. And once he was done, he stopped the class and he told everybody, he brought everybody in the circle because, you know, of course, we all seen this going down or whatever. And he said, look, I didn't do that to embarrass him or anything like that. He said, I did it to prove to all of you one thing. He was like, is that a great anything will beat a good many things, you know. And in order to, you know, be successful, you first have to at least find the one thing that you're great at and keep on stacking on top of that. And I use that into saying the same thing with our dogs. If you have a great design, a great, you know, premise of what your yard is supposed to be, keep pushing towards replicating that greatness over and over and over again, and you're going to reach it, and then it's going to become a very, very easy process to be great. You know, don't lower your standards to say, well, this is good, even though I can't get the great one that I was looking for. This will work if this is, because, you know, a lot of us sometimes, you know, we take in stuff, you know, as I can get it fast. You know what I mean? I can get it cheap. I can get it all these things. And what you'll find out is 10 to 15 years later in your program that you've never reached the level of success that you wanted to is because you've kept on taking shortcuts. You never became great at anything that you were doing because you kept taking shortcuts. Your program has nothing great about it because you kept taking shortcuts. I tell y'all this not in an arrogance thing, but just in a reality thing. I've owned several great dogs. You know, Hallie was a great dog. You know, Denzel was a great dog. Mandela is now making himself to be a great dog with the way he's producing. And the one thing that I can tell you about these great dogs is that it was a process, and it's still a process to stick to it. Now, there are other breeders out there, and like I say, it's not to be arrogant, but there's breeders who've been around as long as me, and they have a lot of mouth. You know, they'll tell you everything in the world, but the one thing they can't show you is great productions. You know, because they've never mastered that. They can show you a bunch of good stuff. They can show you pedigrees to say it's good, give you a bunch of names, but you ask them to show you their productions. You don't know their productions for a reason. If you want to produce something great, you've got to stick to it. You've got to stick to greatness. If you, the dogs that I spoke of, Denzel is a Paco grandson. You know what I'm saying? He's a gargoyle son. You know, great dogs. You know, Paco, one of the greatest. His mom, one of the greatest. Hallie B, definitely one of the greatest. You know, Hallie, comes directly from Shamu, who came off a ton of great dogs. You know, her father, Thug, one of the greatest dogs in the breed's history, won a ton of shows, beautiful overall dog with a very, very good pedigree. You know, Mandela, son of Bistro, the all-time winningest dog in the history of the breed. You know, grandson of Denzel. You know, great-grandson of Paco. You know, great-grandson of Hallie, the first ever All-American Bully champion. This is how you do greatness, and I'm only talking about my yard, but I could go into other yards like Pratt's yards, where if you look at Pratt's dogs over and over again, this dude produces 1 litter a year and literally has produced and owned several of the greatest dogs in the breed's history. It's because of not settling for low-level dogs, even if you have to wait a long time. Shit, I'm still waiting to make something happen so I can get Pratt's blood over here, and he's been a friend of mine for years. You know, but at the end of the day, you know, greatness comes from repetition and going after your goal without changing it and perfecting that one goal, not switching your program around, not taking in dogs because this dog was cheap. Oh, he was cheap, or, oh, they already got puppies on the ground. Let me hurry up and grab one. I'm telling you, it's a million breeders out there who do this all the time, and it's a reason why you don't see a million great dogs, but it's funny that you'll see the same people have a tendency to keep on coming up with dogs that can blow your mind. And all that's about is the shooting for their level of greatness and not accepting, anything less. I'll be real with y'all. I've seen tons of breeders who've had great dogs, but they didn't have a great vision. I mean, let's just be realistic. Right now, you look at the Remy line empire. Fabian, he never cared about breeding the dogs. He cared more about the money and the vision and whatever else, and he let everybody else do the breedings. But you look at Fabian right now, Fabian doesn't have anything great off of Remy. It's a tragedy when you have such a great fucking dog and a great legacy that the man who controlled the whole thing, he doesn't have a great dog off of Remy, and that's because bottom line is he told people it was a business. That's why he moved over to exotics. It wasn't a vision. You look at Marco Suarez. Marco Suarez has made several great dogs off of Paco and continues the legacy because he has a vision. You can't make Marco take on just any dog because it was cheap or it was this or it was that or it's hot or I'm gonna switch my whole program or whatever the case may be. He's just one of them. You look at Oscar Gomez. Oscar Gomez has been consistent for 20 years. This is why he can keep on giving you the same look and the same type of quality of dogs over and over again because his vision is greatness. He doesn't deviate, no matter even what's around him. Even if people in his group deviates from the plan, he continues with his plan, and it has proved out to be greatness for him. If you want to be great, practice your vision over and over and over again and stop deviating to try to get a couple goods on your road to greatness, because that shit does not work. I'm telling you that right now. Stop undercutting your process. Stop thinking that I can take a little bit of this and I can make it. No, you can't. It's going to fuck up your program. You add bad hips, it's going to fuck up your program. You take in this dog that you know wasn't shit in the first place, it's going to fuck up your program. Do the right thing, stick to your vision of greatness, and keep on beating the goods and the bads and the half-asses. Until next time, y'all, much love. This sun is killing me. Peace.